Florida leads the nation in boating accidents. And find out what you need to know before you go out on the water. That story when we come back. Boating is considered a pastime here in Florida, but as we have seen over the years, it could also be dangerous. In 2014, 73 people lost their lives in boating accidents in the state. That number dropped last year, but the number of accidents increased. Tonight, ABC 7's Max Winnitz shows us what local law enforcement is doing to keep you safe out on the water.
In Florida, just about every day is a boat day. And that keeps the Manatee County Sheriff's Office Marine Unit busy.
Sir, do you have your life jacket? Do you have a life jacket? Supposed to have a life jacket.
Sergeant Ed Bowles and Deputy Dan Hearn patrol these waters all day long.
You just try the zipper for me, just make sure it opens.
Sometimes they're stopping boats for an inspection, checking for life jackets and other critical safety equipment.
When you get out here, and especially here in Florida, the weather can change at any time, you know, and so it just depends. I mean, you got to make sure that when you head out that you have all the proper equipment and safety equipment on board your boat.
When they're not inspecting, the deputies often switch on their flashing blue lights and pull boaters over for breaking the rules of the water.
It's mostly just the slow speed zones, people running through the Manatee zones and the slow speed zones.
That's what this boater did.
He's 65 and FL. Let me know who it comes back to.
Gentleman we stopped for was in violation of the Manatee Protection Zone. It's a designated slow speed zone. The boat is required to be settled in the water, as we are right now, is idling along with a very minimal wake behind your boat.
Deputy Hearn gives the man a $55 citation.
We're 05 POB.
Today, a piece of cake for the sheriff's office, but it's not always like that. Year after year, Florida leads the nation in the number of boating accidents and fatalities.
It's pretty sad. I mean, a lot of it just comes down to, you know, people just not paying attention and, you know, just misfortunate or unfortunate circumstances, you know, that lead to a lot of these accidents.
A contributing factor to lots of those accidents, boozing on the bay. Boating under the influence is the same as driving under the influence.
They're drinking on the waterways and being out in the hot sun all day. They can be tired, and again, congestion and just alcohol impairs their judgment, and sometimes everything is moving on the water. The boat's moving, there's other vessels moving, the water conditions, and they just choose to make a bad decision, and it can result in end up tragic.
Tragedy that can be prevented by staying sober, alert, and equipped. So in order to stay safe on board your boat and to not get a ticket, you need the following items. 1, a life vest for every single person on board. 2, flares if you plan on traveling offshore. 3, a horn or a whistle. 4, a fire extinguisher. And 5, a throw cushion. Reporting in Manatee County, Max Winnitz, ABC 7, your Suncoast News. Alan, back to you.
Thanks, Max. And in a moment, we'll speak with boat safety instructors on our roundtable. Joining us for more on tonight's topic is Gary Wells, the education officer for the Sarasota Power and Sail Squadron, and Howard Levine, the safety officer for the same group. I want to thank you both for joining us and for bringing everything in tonight. And, you know, Howard, you were telling me before our broadcast that a lot of the injuries and unfortunate deaths that we see are because boaters don't have this equipment on board with them.
Yeah, that's right, Alan. But the main problem is with boaters is that the unfortunate statistic is that 90% of the boaters out there have never taken a formal boating course. So we have only a small amount who have taken courses either through the United States Power Squadron or through the Coast Guard, U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary, which are partners with us in education.
And so there's no requirement when you purchase a boat or rent one that you can show any indication that you know what you're doing.
Unfortunately, true. You can walk into a dealer and buy a $200 boat or buy a $2 million boat. And if you say, well, I know what I'm doing, he'll hand you the keys and off you go. And that is not the case with an automobile, obviously. You need a license.
Has there been any effort to change that?
Yes, the Power Squadron and Coast Guard Auxiliary have been working with the government to get licensing, which means that if you have to get a license, you'll have to go through some sort of education. And then the various states are starting to put that into effect little by little.
But not here, and
not here right
why?
now.
I mean, what's the objection?
The objection is, of course, that licensing is only a money-making situation for the government, and besides which, I know what I'm doing. I've been boating for 20 years.
What are some of the most important pieces of equipment that you have there?
Okay, there are some pieces of equipment that are absolutely required by the Coast Guard for navigating our waters, and one of them is flares. And these are two different types of flares. One's a red flare for nighttime, and one's an orange flare, which gives off a lot of smoke for daytime use. These are required, and they have to be not expired, and there's an expiration date on each one of these. And you also have to know how to use them. Another thing that would be a great idea is to have a handheld radio along with the other radio that you may, VHF radios, by the way, these are marine radios. Even though your boat might have a radio, if you lose your power, battery goes out, etc. Now, a lot of boaters say, well, I have a cell phone. Well, that didn't work out on the Gulf a couple of weeks ago when we lost one of the boaters because his cell phone wouldn't reach a signal.
Hey, Gary, let me ask you this. Is one of the problems here, we have so many tourists and part-time seasonal residents living down here, is part of the issue that state by state the rules and the laws and the requirements are different, so if you come from the Northeast you may not know what's required here in Florida?
Not so much that as much as it is just I think that because we have 12 months worth of a boating season here where a lot of other parts of the country may only have 5 or 6 months, so that ends up impacting that as well too. But we offer such a broad spectrum to try to of educational courses to try to fill that gap and try to help people be a little bit smarter when they are on the water down here.
And one of the things that is of particular interest is we did a broadcast just a week or so ago about manatee speed zones and the requirement to slow down and leave no or little wake in manatee areas. Is the problem that manatees are unique to our waters and not to others? And in fact, I think Max told me that one boat that they pulled over, the folks were from Australia and may not have been familiar with the need to slow down.
Very true, very true. And a lot of it is properly, signs are out there and it's properly indicated, but a lot of people just don't take the time to read the signs and understand or get familiar perhaps with local knowledge from people that are familiar with the area.
And what about drunk boating? I mean, you know, the thing is it's so beautiful out there and it almost in many cases goes with the territory. People want to have a good time out there and they, correct me if I'm wrong, may not perceive it as the same thing as drunk driving.
Well, that's true. And the worst part about it is you're out there in the sun, and the sun is beating down, and you're warm, and so a couple of beers go down very easily. And before long, you lose your sense of perception. You don't see around you. You don't realize boats that are coming at you. All of a sudden, you forget the rules of the road, and that's where the alcohol comes in.
Hey, how easy is it for people who are watching this tonight who have a boat or want to rent a boat to go out there and get just a little bit of education?
It's very easy. I mean, in our particular case, our organization, the Sarasota Power and Sail Squadron, has a great facility at Tuttle and Hyde Park, and we're always offering educational courses just about every week of the year, and everything from basic seminars on mastering the rules of the road, basic weather, kayaking, all different types of seminars, as well as American Boating course, which is a great course that we offer. We have one coming up on June 4th, matter of fact. It runs on 2 Saturdays, very reasonably priced. It's open to the public, and we would encourage people to sign up for that.
How well attended are these classes?
Very much so. We end up with anywhere between 15 to 25 people or more in these courses. And we have a whole a broad spectrum of great instructors, very seasoned instructors that provide their area of expertise as well during that process. So it's an excellent course.
And one other thing, we encourage the spouse to come along.
Absolutely right. Yeah.
Because when the spouse, like my spouse, when she took the course along with me, she no longer did white knuckle boating because she knew what I knew. And that makes it a lot better boating all the way around.
Partner in Command is one of our seminars, so it includes a spouse.
Is summer the busiest season on our waters?
Down here, it's probably the other way around.
It's the other way around,
yeah.
really, because during the summertime, many people head back up north and their boats just stay down here, or it's too hot to go out boating, and or the winds are not favorable.
Yeah.
So really, from October to May is the real heavy boating season.
And do you feel that people who are down here for the winter or have more education and are safer, and during the summer, you know, people are less educated, and you know, what is the season where the most risk is out there?
I think what we have is a situation where a lot of people up north live on lakes. I lived on a lake up north, and it's different dynamics. When you come down here and you're in the intercoastal and you're around the kind of waters that are here, people are not that familiar with the characteristics of what goes on.
We just have a couple of seconds left. Just sum it up in terms of urging people to be safe out there.
Okay, we urge people to come and take the boating course. We also, Power Squadron gives a complimentary vessel safety check, which makes sure that you have all of the proper equipment, and in case the Coast Guard or Marine authorities pull you over, they'll know that you at least have had this check. It is free, it's complimentary, it's part of our civic contribution. Just call the United States Power Squadron.
And I'll have to leave it there. Thank you, gentlemen, for coming in tonight, and we'll be back in just a moment.